Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to look at some interesting updates impacting the overall market. First, we did see Google announce Gemini 3, which seems to be getting a lot of traction. We also did see some interesting partnerships with Nvidia, Microsoft, and then Nvidia, Microsoft, and Anthropic. And we finally started to see some green in some neo cloud players. We saw Nebius and Iron up. CoreWeave was down, but they did have an event today, and I want to share some crucial information from here. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so first let's start off with the market wasn't as bad as before, in my opinion. I don't know if a lot of the bleeding has stopped, even though Nvidia was down roughly 2.8%. We saw companies like AMD roughly down 4%, but I'm not sure if because we saw some of the neo cloud players up, my overall portfolio wasn't as crazy as these past few days. Now, the first thing that I want to take a closer look at is Google. So Google did introduce Gemini 3, which they mentioned is the best model in the world for multimodal understanding and their best powerful agentic plus vibe coding model yet. So this is just overall exciting. It continues to showcase the innovation happening with AI. And even going in with it, it continues to create this competitive landscape. We can see that Elon, yesterday, Grok 4.1 was the number one model in LLM Arena or LM Arena. And now Gemini 3.3 Pro has taken over that space. And Grok 4.1 has dropped to number two. Now, Elon has mentioned that 4.20 is coming soon. And in theory, he's kind of projecting that it's going to be better than Gemini 3 Pro. So it showcases the constant competition happening here in the AI space. Sam Altman did also kind of congratulate the team, Google, on Gemini 3. But we all know that OpenAI is also working on something to kind of get back to the top here in these arenas in the benchmark. And this just showcases the competitive landscape here. And that competitive landscape, as we're seeing, is going to need the increase of compute power. So great revenue for AI chip companies. And we're going to continue to see the demand for CapEx from all the big cloud server providers. Now, what I thought was pretty funny is here in the showcase of Gemini 3, they kind of talk about, hey, can you build a bilingual website? With some of the pictures. And we did see Duolingo. Unfortunately, Duolingo did take a hit after I think Gemini was announced and the stock was down roughly 4.1%. Duolingo is now sitting at 8.1 market cap. Year to date, the stock is down roughly 46%. From its overall peak, the stock is down roughly 66%. And in the past 5 years, the stock is only up roughly 25%, completely underperforming the overall market, right? We can see the NASDAQ in 5 years is up over 103%. So I'm actually interested in maybe looking into Duolingo a little bit more. I don't have a position. I haven't done any really deep research on it, but would see if the market is creating some opportunity in this due to the massive fears. So would love to hear your comments below. Now, the next topic I want to jump into is NVIDIA and Microsoft announced an increasement or expanded their collaboration. So NVIDIA is expanding its collaboration with Microsoft, including through the adoption of next generation NVIDIA Spectrum X Ethernet switches for the new Microsoft Fairwater AI superfactories powered by the NVIDIA Blackwell platform. So here is just more of an expansion of partnership, and this is what you want to see, right? NVIDIA continues to be a dominant player in the AI compute world and the AI chip market in the data center market. So there wasn't anything here that, in my opinion, should drive the stock price up today, but it's just that long-term thesis still intact that NVIDIA is just developing chips and not just chips, right? Networking solutions, software solutions, AI solutions at such a rapid pace that it makes it a sticky business. So that's pretty exciting there. Now, there was another interesting update, and today, Anthropic, Microsoft, and Nvidia announced a massive partnership. And we're going to see this Microsoft, Nvidia, and Anthropic. But before we go anywhere, make sure to check out the community. What the chip happened? If you're curious about AI chips, enter the community. Right now, you can have 15% off if you use the code YouTube to get 15% off to the membership. But we have over 100 members. And yeah, pretty exciting. We have deep dives. I'm taking a closer look at CoreWeave, at Intel, like some companies that unfortunately don't do well on videos. I have a lot of information there, and make sure to join the community. If not, join the free newsletter where I'm dropping weekly updates within the semiconductor industry. But check out whatthechiphappened.com and make sure to use the code YouTube. Now, jumping into here, the Microsoft and Nvidia and Anthropic partnership. Now, this is big because Nvidia and Anthropic, while Anthropic has used Nvidia chips, Anthropic CEO has always kind of, in my opinion, had this heated battle or distaste for Nvidia. And if you look in the overall X platform, you can kind of see maybe some of the times when Anthropic was a little bit extreme in how the CEO kind of had the distaste for Nvidia's massive compute lead. So just by them working together, I think it was pretty it just showcases that this market is so crazy that enemies need to become some form of friends even at the end, because that's the market we're in. You can't have bad blood in this market, and you can't just do everything through ASIC. Again, Anthropic has been using NVIDIA GPUs, but this just showcases they're going to use even more NVIDIA GPUs because they can't escape it, right? Anthropic has been using Google's TPUs, has been using Amazon's Trainium. They need more than that, and NVIDIA is moving at a crazy, crazy movement. And I actually think Microsoft is acting as a great middleman here. There is a video that they have about 10 minutes explaining this partnership. And if you watch it, Microsoft CEO, in my opinion, was more of like a middleman to not have kind of just NVIDIA CEO and Anthropic CEO talking. That's what I got. It was definitely pretty awkward when it was just NVIDIA CEO and Anthropic CEO. But so I do think that was fun to watch with some cringy moments. But Anthropic is scaling rapidly, growing Claude AI model on Microsoft Azure, powered by NVIDIA, which will broaden access to Claude and provide Azure enterprise customers with expanded model choice and new capabilities. Anthropic has committed to purchase 30 billion of Azure compute capacity and to contract additional compute capacity up to 1 gigawatt. For the first time, NVIDIA and Anthropic are establishing deep technology partnerships to support Anthropic's future growth. Anthropic and NVIDIA will collaborate on design and engineering with the goal of optimizing Anthropic models for the best possible performance efficiency and TCO, and optimizing future NVIDIA architectures for Anthropic workloads. The commitment, like I mentioned, will initially be up to 1 gigawatt of compute capacity with NVIDIA's Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin systems. Now, outside of that, as part of this partnership, NVIDIA and Microsoft are committing to invest up to $10 billion and up to $5 billion, respectively, in Anthropic. So it's gonna go back to look like this circle investment type thing. I'm not necessarily worried about that. Now, the reason I think Nvidia and Anthropic made a deal is we know Anthropic is actually doing really well in coding, and coding takes a lot and a lot of compute, especially when you're working with massive context workload. And NVIDIA a few months ago announced the NVIDIA Rubin CPX, which accelerates inference performance and efficiency for 1 million plus token context workloads. And they mentioned one of the crucial parts for this is actually long context, which is video, and is also software creation and software optimization. For the best TCO for Anthropic, obviously you're doing good with Trainium from Amazon. You're probably doing good with TPUs from Google. But with this Rubin CPX, I do believe it creates, like they mentioned, a critical for high value inference use like software application development and HD video generation. So Anthropic couldn't escape NVIDIA's GPUs and next generation. Now, another reason why I like this, and yes, I use AI to create this, we keep hearing this AI bubble of OpenAI being the only one that's kind of doing this circle financing. And it's this house of card of AI is only created by OpenAI. So if OpenAI falls, the house of cards falls. Now, we're seeing other companies do something similar. Now we see Anthropic do similar deals, not to the extent of OpenAI, but it's definitely the same type of deal. And it just showcases that now when you start to see more deals like this, it creates a better base for the AI market. And eventually, I think you're going to start to see XAI do similar deals. You're going to see other AI companies also do similar type of deals like this that are going to create this great base for this house of cards that we keep discussing in the AI market. Eventually, right? Eventually, when you start to see massive enterprise use cases as well, you're going to start to get little sticks coming in from those markets as well that help build this baseline. So I think just like we saw with OpenAI, OpenAI was the entry point for the AI market. And they were the entry point for this house of cards, right? If it wasn't for the developments of GPT, of ChatGPT 3, the other players wouldn't be accelerating at the rate they are right now, right? If OpenAI wasn't there to fuel the fire in this race, the other players wouldn't be rushing either. And similar, and like I mentioned, they created this financing style that now other AI companies are also going to start to follow, and it's going to create a stronger base for the house of cards. So that's how I see it, right? Maybe some other people might see a little bit different, but it does get me excited, and I believe the demand for NVIDIA GPUs and AI chips is just going to continue to grow. And I think this is actually a very bullish sentiment before NVIDIA's earnings. Now, that don't mean stocks are going to do well in the short term. Obviously, we could continue to see some sell off. We saw NVIDIA down roughly 2.8% on the day. But I think the long term thesis is still pretty exciting for me. Now, the next thing I want to take a closer look at is some of the neo clouds. We saw Nebius up roughly 5.3%. CoreWeave was up green for some time, but then pulled back. But I believe we have seen some form of base in a lot of these. Obviously, the bleeding can continue, but I don't think it's going to be as heavy as it was before. Iron was up roughly 3%. Now, CoreWeave did have analyst event today. And I'm creating here my deep dive on it for the newsletter for the community. So again, make sure to check out the community for all these deep dives. But there's one thing that I think all AI investors should know. You guys know I'm extremely bullish in CoreWeave. And many people unfortunately just talk about these neo clouds and they don't know much about the neo clouds. They think that this neo cloud, just because it has the same type of power or has potential power, is going to end up beating some of these other players. But even though they all have the same GPUs, the structure and the reliability of them is crucial. So there was a critical question for any GPU, for any GPU provider, right? If everyone can buy the same H100s, the same GB200s, the same GB300, what makes CoreWeave special? And they mentioned that the answer lies within their software stack and the infrastructure. The CFO mentioned that the reason why that happens is customers join our platform and they identify that the performance of the same GPU is fundamentally different on CoreWeave's platform than what they can experience on other platforms that are available. That key differentiator there is their software stack. And that is very crucial. And if it doesn't make sense, let's say I'm charging $1 per GPU as CoreWeave, right? And there's another player that comes out and charges 90 cents on the GPU instead. So you might be like, oh no, this is just a GPU as a service. I'm going to go out there and buy that 90 cents instead of the dollar from CoreWeave. But let's say with the $1 of CoreWeave, you get near 98% reliability on the GPU. So they're working 98 minutes out of the 100 minutes. But in this other platform that you pay 10%, they have a 70% reliability. That within the 100 minutes, they're only really working 70 minutes. Now, you might be paying overall cheaper on the price for that GPU, but the actual utilization rate, you're actually getting a better bang for your buck using CoreWeave. And that is a big, big difference. So it's not just about the GPU itself, the price of the GPU, the one who has the better TCO because of, hey, I own the power opposed to renting it. If you have the better reliability, it is crucial and it is enough moat to keep the big players in there. That's why you see the big winners here in CoreWeave. And the reason CoreWeave hasn't announced any more big contracts is they just don't have the active power for it right now. Their active power is all being rented. So It's important to understand the difference between these neo cloud players. It's important to understand the type of power capacity, the amount of money that's being spent on these GPUs. You see kind of people building these active powers, but 200 megawatts that they still need to fill up with GPUs, where CoreWeave already has nearly 600 active powers filled with GPUs. It's a whole different ball game, and just be careful who you're following. Now, I do believe this overall market is going to continue to win, but I'm just trying to eliminate some of the bearish thesis here around CoreWeave, because this is crucial to understand the ins and outs of the companies. Now, again, this is not a bearish take on Nebius. This is not a bearish take on Iron. I do believe all these will do well in the long term. As a whole, maybe individually, some of them might be a little bit better, but I am still extremely bullish on CoreWeave. Now, another company that did report today was Intel. I might be doing a deep dive as well on the community. Maybe I might even do a video later on the channel as well, if you guys want to learn more about Intel. Just curious how the stock is doing right now. Intel was up a little bit, but kind of pretty much sold off a little bit, just like the rest of the market. AMD, I'm looking at you. You're looking attractive. Let me know if you guys are doing any purchasing right now. I did purchase a few of my favorite Mac 7s recently, and I also did some purchasing in some Neo Clouds recently as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.